started. So this week we're going to be talking about, video games. Again, one of my favorite topics. But this time I thought I'd mix it up. I want to talk about video games application effects on people in their daily lives, that kind of deal. So I thought I would talk about what it's like to be in college and also trying to keep up with gaming friends and all that stuff. And keeping up with your favorite games. You see all your friends around you who somehow seem to manage to have time to play the games. You're like, yo, did you play this game? Did you play that game? You're like, no, man, I'm just staying up till 5 a.m. every day doing an essay. How do you have time for that kind of thing? And, in my 4 years of college, I think I gained a fair amount of experience where it's like to try and take the latest game on the side while also keeping up with my studies at the same time. So, like I think this is like share a little bit of my expertise in that study in that area. So to begin with, I think that it'd be a good place to begin with like really popular games that everybody can play. Specifically when it's like multiplayer. Because multiplayer means you're playing with your friends, spending time for it, that kind of thing. Single player games is generally easier to just wait a little bit until the game goes on sale or something like that, or until you have more time until summer rolls around and you put it on that wait list or your to do list of video games you want to play. So oh, let me see. Can't hear me. Let me turn it up a bit. That should be better. Yeah, now I can hear myself. Okay, that's better. Yeah, good. So yeah. Anyways, like I was saying, I'm gonna be talking about what it's like to be in college playing video games, that kind of thing. Yeah. All right. Thank you, man. I see you in the chat there saying better. All right. Good. Yeah. So like I was saying, we talk about, what it's like to be in college playing video games. I think the first thing that I should start off with is multiplayer games because those are the games that you typically find yourself trying to play the most with your friends. Um, I think the best experience I could give is when Monster Hunter World came out. I talked about it last time I was on here, but Monster Hunter World came out. I was really, down. I was really trying to play it every day. I was back on it. It's definitely a multiplayer experience. You're in there with your friends. You build guilds. You go hunt monsters together. You could do a single player. There's no problem with that. But I found myself having the most fun playing with other people and my own friends that I knew. Even randos online, it was kind of fun. So, of course, as a part of that, I ended up staying up really late, and you find yourself not doing the assignment you were given the day before, and you're like, rats, I forgot, man. I had this assignment, I had a really long paper to do or something. So the way I'd say like divvy up your time with that kind of thing is if you want to like do the assignment before or something like that, if you want to try and like make time in the day or something, if it's a new game and you really got to play it, you really do want to like finish up your work, all of that as soon as possible before you put it off to the side. One thing I know with like really common games and stuff like that is that I can work at the same time I'm trying to play. I don't advise that though. That's just me. I can multitask like that, but I don't advise that because that's really privy to you just getting distracted and wanting to go and play the game full time instead. But if you think you're up to the challenge of playing a game at the same time that you're trying to do your work, by all means, let me know how it works out for you because it sure has worked a little bit for me here and there. Um, when it comes to staying up late, that kind of thing, I think it's lost its luster a lot. I've become a night owl as college has gone on. I never used to stay up past 10 or 11, but now I find myself staying up till 2 on a regular night. Because you get sucked into watching your favorite streamer or whatever you're looking at on your phone. You eat dinner, you bathe or whatever, you take a shower, and you go and sit down, and you're like, this is the moment where I would go to bed, right? But that new Fire Emblem game has been calling my name for a bit. I've been falling behind. I could get a little bit of time on League before I go to bed. Maybe just one game, and then it all falls away. And before you know, it's 3 a.m. and you're like, I have class tomorrow at 8. Oh boy, I'm not gonna be sleeping. It looks like you put yourself in that mode where you're like, what classes can I sleep through and still do well? But I'd say that that kind of thing has kind of lost its luster for me. I find myself more and more just being like, nah, I'd rather just hit the hay. Mainly because most of my classes now, I have 2 days out of the week where I'm the busiest, and then I have 1 day or 2 days where I'm coming at like 2 o'clock or something like that, and it's a lot easier. But even so, I still find myself dead tired at the end of those 2 o'clock days. So trying to play games and trying to keep up with games has gotten like really hard. Like even I was talking about Iceborne last week, Monster Hunter World Iceborne. I was having a blast playing it. I haven't touched it in the past week and a half, and it sucks because it's really fun. But school ends up taking priority if you want to be serious about that kind of thing. And that's one of the dilemmas that these new amazing games come out, and it's always during the year when you feel like you have no time to play that kind of thing or to do that kind of thing. It's always a side thought, or you're just too tired to do it. You have to dedicate a lot of energy to sitting down and doing a whole like 3 hour or 2 hour session of playing one game. Especially with Monster Hunter, you're not gonna sit down and play Monster Hunter World for an hour. I can guarantee it. You're gonna play Monster Hunter World. You're gonna get in, fight that first monster, be like, all right, I'm doing pretty good. Fight that second monster, lose, want to hop back in, keep going, and then you beat it. You keep going. You see the dope armor you can get if you beat it a couple more times, and before you know it, you've already sunk 3 hours into the game, and you're hungry, and you want to go get a snack, and you still haven't done that work assignment that you forgot about. Yeah. See, it all comes full circle. But as school goes on, more and more I've managed my time to where a new game comes out, and I'm like, all right, I can definitely play at these times during the day when I'm relaxing or something like that, and I want to. But most of it comes down to if you really want to or if you really care. That's actually how I've come to figure out if I really like a game or not. The best way to figure out if you like a game or not is if you want to play it, of course. If you can put it down and forget about it for a really long time and then not have that random drive to want to come back to it, you're probably not going to enjoy it, or there's probably something about it that you don't really like, or you feel is tedious enough to not want to come back to. I thought that was the way I was going with Fire Emblem Three Houses, actually, because I had a lot of fun going through my first run of it, and there's three different routes that you can go, so you have to play the game three separate times. And after the first time, I was kind of tired. I was like, man, that was really fun and really, great and everything. But boy, oh boy, was that exhausting. And I just put down my Switch and I played Smash like a bunch of other times because, Smash Ultimate is Smash. And I didn't touch Fire Emblem Three Houses for a while. I didn't want to start a new route because I knew, you're starting over again. Your units are at level 1. You gotta go through that slog of what it's like to not have your super powerful units at the end of it. But that I think comes with every Fire Emblem game. But anyways, recently I got back into playing it. I started over again, and I'm sucked right back in. I'm literally sucked right back in. I have my Switch with me. Like I was just playing it a couple of minutes before I even walked in here because it's just that much fun of a game. Even you get to like the mid game where your units are getting kind of strong, and I'm having a blast again, just like I did before. So, that's how you can judge if a game is good or not, or if it's for you or not. If it drags you back in with that feeling of like, man, I got to play this, so I got to make time to play this. And that's what I think, makes a great game. And speaking of great games, actually, another topic I want to discuss today. I saw this on Twitter and I thought it was pretty interesting because I always find these things kind of interesting. These little polls that people make, or these little sections where, like, pick 4 of whatever, of your favorite whatever, and rank it, or you don't even have to rank it, just say it and see what people react to. But that's social media in a nutshell. But this one was interesting. It was talking about on Twitter. This came from a user, I think, Seasoned Gamer. He was like, drop your 4 favorite video games and let your followers decide if you have rights. Some nonsense like that. And I was like, I don't care what anybody else thinks, but I think it'd be cool if I dropped my 4 favorite video games if I actually thought about it, because everybody always has their top 10, and it's a lot easier to say, oh, yeah, I love this game and this game and this game, than it is for you to pick just 4, or even just 3, or even just 1, like your favorite game of all time. Actually, I think picking your favorite game of all time is way easier than picking like 4 favorite games of all time, because those could all be your favorite games, because you narrow it down at a top 5. It's the games that you've gone back to a bunch, or the games that you played a lot in your childhood. And in regards to that, I chose 4 games, and I thought that in order for me to really think, did I love this game as much as I thought? Well, let's talk about it. So the 4 games I chose were Gravity Rush, the first one that was on the PS Vita, Skullgirls Second Encore, and Ozra's Wrath from like back. Oh my gosh, it's so long ago. Well, not well, yeah, no, long enough. 9 years is a pretty long time. Back on the PS3, and the recent smash hit from Yokotaro, from what you would call it. No, it wasn't Arc System Works. Platinum Games, amazing studio. Near Automata. I love that game. So I thought, I'd take some time to talk about each one of them, just in small bits. I wouldn't go full detail, but my experience with them and what makes me wanted to put them as my 4 favorite games. My 4 favorite games. I put up 8. I don't know why I put up 8. 4 favorite games. So for the first game, I'd say Gravity Rush. I have a special attachment to this one. So when I was in grade school, my parents were really strict on me with my grades and stuff like that, and they really wanted to push me into, trying different things, learning different things, doing the little opportunities that you had on the side. I was in band. I had karate practice. I did soccer. All those extracurricular activities. And a part of that was also the science fair. The science fair was mandatory. But there was that little part in you that was like, man, I don't care about this at all. And that was me with science fairs for the most part. But I always had fun, doing the projects and everything. I did them a lot of times with my mom. And, we came up with great ideas to go forward with. And she would help me to, I would have to do the research. She wouldn't like hold my hand through the whole thing. I was doing the research. I came up with, she helped me to pick the topic, but I did the research on the topic and how to make the machine. And then she helped me to create the massive project because she's just a handyman like that. And it was always amazing. We did things like, I think we made a generator out of plastic spoons and copper wiring, a water powered generator. And it was really cool. And that won me like, cool. I think the highest placing I got 3rd place. Of course, being a grade school, they didn't want to make you feel like, you did all this work and you didn't get 1st place. Wow. No, it was always, everybody got an award, but I got a special award, for having a particularly really good science project. And that was in 4th grade. And I was really happy about it. So happy, in fact, I guess my happiness transferred to my parents, and they bought me a PSP. My dad did. It was really cool. One day I was sick from school, and he took me home early. And I was in my room. I was feeling real garbage. And then my dad came upstairs, or no, he didn't come upstairs. Rather, he called me to come downstairs. And I was like, I'm sick, but whatever. I was a kid back then. So my dad called me. I went and I went downstairs, got halfway down the stairs, and he was right there. He's like, here. And there was a box with a big old PSP in it. I was like, what? This is amazing. And he actually bought a couple of games with it too. And I was like, what is this for? What did I do? Well, he's like, this is for winning the science fair. I was like, no way. And the rest is history. I love the PSP. I played some of my favorite games on there of all time. Dragon Ball Z, Shin Budokai 1 and 2, Jak and Daxter. There was this kart racing game that was very similar to well, not really similar. No, yeah, similar to Mario Kart, but it was totally Sony inspired. Need for Speed Carbon. Love that game. Need for Speed Most Wanted 910. But that was like a special subsection of the original Need for Speed that was on the PS2. Man, there's so many of them. I can't even remember that. But Jak and Daxter is the one I remember the most because or just Daxter rather, my bad. Jak and Daxter was on the PS2. All the Jak and Daxter games. Jak and Daxter itself was a great game, and I had a lot of fun with that. I played it over and over again. So you can imagine my elation when I saw that the PS Vita, which was like this super futuristic looking version of the PSP, that was a sleek black, had a touch screen, had 2 analog sticks on it, just like my PS2 controller. That drove me wild. I was beyond excited. And I was really waiting for it. So when I finally did get the chance to get it, I got it when I was in when I graduated high school. I got it. So I took the time and I thought out like all the games I wanted. I wrote it down. I bought, I had Game Informers. I had a Game Informer subscription at the time, so any of the games that came out in it, I always wrote down. I wrote down the prices, everything. I was real nerdy like that. I was really hyped for this. I finally did get it, and the first game I got on it was Gravity Rush, and I didn't know anything about this game. I didn't know, any of the characters, anything privy to it whatsoever. I think I just bought it because it came with the game. It came with the PS Vita, and I got it as a part of my graduation from, sorry, not high school, grade school. What you call it. So I was really excited to get the chance to play it. And man, the first time I played that game, it was so trippy because they had touch controls. PS Vita has a touchpad on the back that you can use to move around with your character and stuff like that and fly through the air. And I was blown away. This was like what, how old was I going into high school? Probably like 11, 12, something like that. And or no, 13. I was like 13. 13-year-old mind being blown by touch controls. I never had a Wii U or anything like that, or a Wii. Man, I keep mixing up the modern day consoles with the older consoles. But I never had a Wii or anything like that, so I wasn't familiar with touchscreens, or I didn't even have a DS, so I wasn't familiar with that kind of thing. So for me, playing this game the first time that really utilized the touchpad of the PS Vita beautifully, it was amazing. And the entire game had this really unique art style to it that was super cell shaded, and it was really, colorful and well blended together. And the worlds were just amazing because it's about a bunch of floating cities in the sky, essentially, that this girl gets dropped into randomly from, she doesn't remember who she is. Classic game trope, amnesia. And she gets gravity powers from this really, weird looking cat that's kind of, it looks like space. The cat looks like space. And I thought that this game is really weird, but it's really fun. I get to fly around for free. And, as you progress, you can fly around longer. You get to use gravity in different ways. You shift. They call you a gravity shifter because you don't essentially fly. You just make it so that gravity shifts so you can stick from one place to another, or gravity moves in, from one direction to the other. Instead of it being down, it's up. So what's up is down and what's down is up. Wrap your head around that one. But anyways, I had a lot of fun with the game, and I played it over and over again. I think I played it like 7 times before I finally gave it a rest. And I was really looking forward to a second one because at the end of the first game, there were so many unsolved plot points and stuff like that. I was like, they have to make a second one, right? And then in 2014, the website opened up with a small trailer of what Gravity Rush 2 would look like. And I was, oh my gosh, I was so excited. I was gung-ho. I was like, yo, this game's going to be amazing. When does it come out? I can't wait for the next iteration on the Vita. It's going to be... And then I saw that it was only going to be for the PS4. And my heart sunk because at that time I was in high school. I was like a sophomore or a junior or something like that. And I didn't have the money to go and get a PS4. But I was really excited for the game nonetheless. So it came out. PS4 came out and the game came out. It took a while, though. I remember from the first time that I saw the initial website in 2014, 3 years, or maybe, actually, no, I'm wrong. It wasn't 2014 that they put up the website for Gravity Rush 2. I think it was like 2012. The game itself was really, really, really good looking, but it took forever to come out. And so I'll never forgive them for that because the 15-year-old me waited really, really long for this game, only for it to come out on a console that I did not have. But regardless, I still had a lot of fun with it anyways. And Gravity Rush 2 was an amazing game when I finally did get the chance to play it after I spent the summer working to buy my own PS4. And I loved it just as much as I love the first one. But the first one will always have a special place in my heart because when you're a kid and you play a game, there's always that special attachment you have to a game that, is the first on your Vita or on like your PSP or your Game Boy or something like that. You always remember it. And Gravity Rush was a particularly good game too. It wasn't even like it was mediocre or something like that. Like I just have some weird attachment to it. No, it was a good game. It was a lot of fun. It had a really cool story and it was all wrapped up very nicely in Gravity Rush 2. So I have no complaints whatsoever. If they were to ever make a 3, go for it. I'd buy it in a heartbeat. But Gravity Rush 1 and 2, I basically put them together as 2 of my 4 favorite games of all time. It's cheating, but I can do what I want. So anyways, moving on to the next game. Skullgirl's Second Encore. Now, this one holds a special place in my heart as well for being like the first fight. It wasn't my first fighting game per se, but it was my first real experience with what it meant to like what a real fighting game was. Because before then, I had played Budokai 3, which was a Dragon Ball game on the PS2. I had played Naruto, Ultimate Ninja Storm, or Ultimate Ninja Heroes a couple of times. But those are more arena fighters that don't really have the technicality of your classic Street Fighter 2 or your Marvel versus Capcom series or Killer Instinct or Mortal Kombat. It wasn't even privy to those games. I had never played those games growing up. I wish I had, but c'est la vie. Regardless, though, I had a lot of fun when I started playing with Skullgirls. I think my friend Mario introduced it to me when I had just gotten into college because I saw him playing it one day, or he told me about it, and he had been playing it for a couple months, and he invited me to play it, and I was amazed at the art style and everything, and I thought it was so cool. And the game has a ton of references to pop culture things with its characters and stuff like that, and I just fell in love with it. So for a fighting game, it's a 6 button fighter, which just means that on the controller, instead of using just the four buttons that Xbox or PlayStation has, you're using 6 buttons because they denote the different limb or the different actions that your character can take. Light, like the different degree of how hard a move hits, for example, light, medium, heavy, punches, and then the other 3 buttons are light kick, medium kick, heavy kick. And you use those buttons in combination to do different things, to do special moves, to do combos. And this is how I think the old Street Fighter games and Marvel vs. Capcom games specifically played, because Skullgirls Second Encore is based off of Street Fighter, is based off of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in the way it plays as a team-based fighter. The one thing that makes it different, though, is that you don't have to pick 3 characters every time you go to beat somebody up. You can just pick 2, or you can be brazen and just pick 1. But the game adjusts to, deal with that kind of thing. If you have 3 characters, you have a lot of, you have a lot of power, you have a lot of assists and things like that, but you don't have a lot of health. You like your characters are very squishy. If you have 2, it's fairly balanced. You have a decent amount of power, decent amount of health, and you do decent damage. Very middle of the run. And then if you have 1 character, you have a huge amount of power behind you, but you have very high health too to go with it, because you only have 1 character. If you're going against somebody with a team of 3, you get mollywopped. But even so, the meta did shift to having 3 characters the most, because having 2 assists to come out and face down your opponent whenever you're fighting is always privy to having just 1 character that can only do but so much when it's facing you down. So the thing that I loved about this game the most was not the fact that, not even the story. I did love the characters very much. The art style is beautiful and the music is amazing. It's stellar. It's a Lab Zero, which was an indie company. It's essentially an indie fighting game because it wasn't really backed by any of the bigger corporations in its development. And they also went through one hellish development cycle of getting characters out and everything. I was kind of introduced to it at the very end of its lifespan, actually, which is unfortunate because I didn't get to be with the game in its heyday. But regardless, I still had a lot of fun with it. And this is the thing that I think makes it so special to me, is that regardless of it at this point being considered a dead game, it's still one of my favorite fighting games of all time, just because of the characters, the combos, the amazing graphics, the amazing, like, the art style is based on this cartoonishness that is reminiscent of like 1920s and 1930s cartoons, 1920s, what am I saying? 1950s cartoons and things like that. And it's very, the characters' limbs are accentuated, everything like that, and the music reflects that as well. So, like, think Cuphead, but maybe a little bit more structured than Cuphead. You could see it whenever you're playing the game. Like, the characters are very exaggerating their movements and stuff like that. Peacock is the only one. She's one of the characters in the game that's really reminiscent of those 1950s cartoons, and every action she does, accentuated limbs, really stretchy. When she blows up, she takes out her jaw and she, pops it back in, everything like that, like a cartoon and stuff like that. So it's very, very cartoonish in essence, but it just looks amazing in a 2D art style. And for Lab Zero to put it together so wonderfully is great. And the game is fast paced, super great. And it was also the first game that I bought a fight stick for. With fight sticks are just basically, if you ever been to a classic arcade and you see how they have the arcade cabinets for any game set up and it has like a joystick and the buttons. Fight sticks are just that, but it's not a big cabinet. It's just a box essentially that you can place on your lap and stuff and use with the buttons and stuff like that. Reminiscent of Street Fighter 2's controls and stuff like that. But you can have it on your lap, You got you still have the same joystick right there, and you still have the same buttons, but it's movable and you can plug it into any system and use it to play nowadays. That I bought it thinking that was the best way to play. Little did I know that my friend Mario playing it on keyboard was years ahead of me in his big brainness, because he's really good at the game, and he actually has like zero to little trouble after adjusting to using a keyboard for the game with doing combos, and he could do things a lot quicker on the keyboard because the game just works so well with it. Which kudos to Lab Zero with that, because to allow for so many different controllers to be used, you can use a PS4 controller, you can use a fight stick, you can use an Xbox 360 controller, you can use a keyboard. Hell, I bet you could even use your toothbrush. But it allows for many different ways to play, on top of many different ways to learn how to play the game, and that's great. And that's what made me love the game even more, is just the diversity in play styles and stuff like that. And the game, I played it for a very long time. It was like my favorite fighting game out there. I was playing Super Smash Brothers, the fourth installment at the same time, but I love Smash 4, but I wasn't as good as I was at Skullgirls at the time. So really, I sunk a lot of time into getting better at Skullgirls. I didn't have any major aspirations for it. I just liked playing the game. It was just a lot of fun, and it shot up to the top of my list in terms of favorite games of all time, because I played a lot of fighting games, but that's the only game that I've always been like, if somebody says Skullgirls, I'm like, Skullgirls? Are you talking about Skullgirls? What? Yo, I love Skullgirls. That's my favorite fighting game. And I can say that with confidence. And there hasn't been a game that has replaced it since. Dragon Ball FighterZ was almost that game. And I say almost very lightly, because, oh boy, one day I'll talk about why I don't like it. But that day is not today, because I'm going to move on with my next game, which is Asura's Wrath. Now, this is going to sound weird, because I'll say it was right now. I've never actually played Asura's Wrath in its entirety. I haven't, I didn't have a PS3 and never got ported to the PS4. It's on PlayStation Now, I believe, on the PS4. Like, you can subscribe to PlayStation Now and play it that way. But PlayStation Now is too expensive. Like, you have to subscribe to it monthly just to have access to one game or whatever game you want to download. And I don't like that about PlayStation. That's like one of the only things that I don't like about how they carry themselves with the PS4 and how it works, and PlayStation Network in particular. But regardless, I never played Asura's Wrath in its entirety. And, you're probably going right now, what? How could you love a game and put in your top 4 that you never played? Well, let me tell you, because Asura's Wrath is not a video game. It's a movie. It's not a game that you sit down and play like your classic Mario or Banjo-Kazooie and stuff like that. You could get a box of, a thing of popcorn. You could sit down with your favorite meal or whatever and just watch. Just go on YouTube. I promise you this is worth it. Just go on YouTube, look up Asura's Wrath cutscene, like the whole, you could actually, no. Yeah, just the whole gameplay. Just watch it. Just watch the whole game, because it is amazing. It's so... So before I geek out any more about this, Asura's Wrath is a game about it's based off of Hindu religious ties. There are these 12 deities that they protect the Mother Gaia, the Earth, with from the Goma, which are essentially the Earth's malice and all its bad given form, and like these weird monsters that come in the form of animals like gorillas, fish, giant rocks. Things like that. But the 12 deities protect Mother Gaia from and its people from certain doom, essentially. And they have to, every couple of centuries, I believe, they have to defeat the will of the earth itself, called Vlitra, which is this giant, like almost volcanic looking thing that bursts out of the earth, and they have to fight it. It's weird to me that they have to protect the earth from this thing that is the earth essentially. But regardless, they fight it and they subdue it and they put it to sleep every couple of years, and they've been doing it for a very long time. And of the 12 deities, there's many. The 12 deities, I think, are spread apart in a way that's supposed to represent like the seven sins of man. But there's 12. Like there's lust, there's greed, there's wrath, there's sin, there's pride, there's all of them are there, but they're separated into 12 different characters. Or no, well, what am I saying? 12, 8 guardian generals, and then they become the seven deities as the game goes on. So they do become the seven sins of man, but there's like 8 of them. I'm not sure which one stands out exactly. If I had to choose, I think I can't remember. But it doesn't matter. Anyways, um, this game, like it's called Azra's Wrath, stars Azra, who is one of the 8 guardian generals who's been protecting the Earth all this time from the Goma, and he is the god of wrath. Essentially, he doesn't like being called that, of course, because he's not. He's like, I'm not angry in his angry voice all the time, but he's oh my gosh, he's amazing. The game begins off with this orchestral, ambiance coming in as they're fighting all these monsters in space, flying around, going nuts, punching through them. This is made by Capcom, by the way. And they're punching through them, they're going nuts, they're blowing things up. It's essentially a quick time event as a game. The whole game is essentially quick time events with very sections where you're fighting and you're actually using combos and stuff like that. There's gameplay in there. It's a lot of fun. The gameplay itself is the only thing I think that people have a problem with the game, is because it's not very deep in terms of gameplay wise. It's very reminiscent of like Bayonetta and Devil May Cry in the way it plays, but definitely more simplified than those games. But it's a lot of fun. It's so awesome to watch Azra like get so mad at one point that he can punch a guy right into space, and then that guy grows as big as the Earth, and he just finger pokes the Earth, and when he pokes the Earth, Azra stops it with all his might with just his 6 hands. It's weird, but trust me, it's based off of Hinduism, so the gods and everything are essentially shown in the way that you play the game. So Azra himself is based off of the demon Azra, which is like a 6-armed wrathful thing. So, but he's not like that. It's perfect to change every time, but regardless, the game's awesome, and I've watched it in its entirety so many times, and yet I've never played it once. But every time I watch it, I just get reminded why I love it so much, because it's like watching a movie. Azra gets betrayed by the 8 guardian generals, by the head of them. I think his name is Deus. And Deus is definitely pride. He's definitely the sin of pride, because he's trying to finish off Litra, the will of the earth, once and for all, to save Mother Gaia. But he's very prideful about it, where the current emperor of their, where they live, because they're gods. They're essentially praised by the people as gods. So they live above the atmosphere in... Actually, I don't know where they live, because it's not exactly like they live in the atmosphere of Earth. They don't really live in the atmosphere of Earth, because he leaves the atmosphere multiple times, but you never see where they live. It's called Shinra, I believe. It's not there. It's so weird. I think they just live on the ships that they fly around in every now and then, but it's like a giant city. God stuff. But regardless, he gets betrayed by Deus, and Deus takes his daughter, Mithra, she's the priestess of of their city, of their people, and she's special because she's able to give off massive amounts of this energy source called mantra, which is what they use to power all their weapons to essentially fight the Goma in the first place. And he takes her and he traps her, and he uses her as a battery essentially to power this gigantic space station that's shaped like a dude, shaped like a big guy, that's going to destroy Vlitra once and for all, or at least he hopes, or that's what he's planning for. and knowing that Azra would never ever agree to using his to people using his daughter like that because he loves her, he Deus betrays him by, killing his wife and taking his daughter, and then framing Azra for the death of the Emperor of Shinra. So Azra gets cast out onto the Earth, by the other eight Guardian Generals who also betray him, except for his. Oh, I know. The one that stands out is his friend and his basically brother Yasha, who's what you call it, whose sister is Azra's wife. But what you call it, they kill his wife. It's pretty rough at the very beginning of the game. But Azra gets cast out and he's furious. He gets sent to Earth and essentially enters the atmosphere and falls into the Earth for 15,000 years. And then 15,000 years later, he wakes up and he's got amnesia at first, of course. And it's what allows him to go on a rampage and then the whole game is you following him going through a rampage of beating the other seven deities. They call themselves the seven deities now because they're like, wow, we're so great and powerful. We've collected this much mantra from the people of Earth and stuff like that. Uh, we are the only ones who can save the Earth from itself, essentially. So we're now gonna call ourselves the seven deities because we're so high and mighty. And Azra's like, well, bump that. I'm just gonna beat all of you for framing me for a murder, killing my wife, and taking my daughter. And Azra wins like the best dad of the year award every time because he's the only guy who's ever gone on a quest through heaven and hell of beating every single god just to get his daughter back. And it's an amazing thing to watch as a movie as it unfolds. Unfortunately, the game itself, like the ending to the game, it was pretty crappy because they put it behind DLC where you had to buy it to get the official ending. And maybe that's part of the reason why I never played it because I've seen the entire game so many times that I thought what's the point of buying it at this point? I know everything that's gonna happen, but even so, it's just so cool every time. Maybe one day I should play through it just to know what it feels like to do all the amazing things that you could do in the quick time events and use all the amazing powers that Azra has. It's just, oh, it's so good. And even as bonus DLC, this was really cool. Azra got to fight Ryu and Akuma from Street Fighter on the moon. He fought them on the moon. How did they end up on the moon? It's so good. There's no amount of words I can use to explain why I love this game so much. And I don't think I'll ever have any enough time in the day to explain to somebody until they watch it or play it themselves, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's definitely if I had to choose between a number two, like if I put a game in a number two spot as my favorite game of all time, that one is definitely there. But okay, and then we've got to our last game, which I think how much time do I have? Yeah, perfect. Because now I could use the last 20 minutes I have to talk about why I love Platinum Games Nier Automata so much. Nier Automata is a special case because it's a relatively new game. It came out, I think, like 2 years ago. 2 years ago now. Let me just double check real quick. I'm pretty sure it came out 2 years ago. It's made by Yokotaro. It's part of a entire series. Yeah, 2 years ago in 2017 in February. A little backstory with this game is I saw the trailer for it online. It was completely in Japanese at the time, but it was like this cute girl in a maid outfit, and I was like, whoa. So I clicked on it and I watched the trailer, and the trailer, like, I was totally deceived by the thumbnail. It was incredible. Just seeing like the entire open world. I love open world games, and that's what Nier Automata is. It's essentially an open world game where you play as this character known as 2B, which is she's an android that's a part of this organization called Yorha, which it's a lot to explain about the lore of this game, but I'll try and do it as quickly as possible. Yorha is an organization of androids that are fighting against these robots that have taken over the Earth. The Earth has been in a catatonic state of just apocalypse now kind of scenario where all the humans are gone. The Earth has kind of reclaimed itself and everything, and everything's been kind of bad for some time now, and these robots have come down to take over and the planet, and as a last defense force, these androids that were left behind by the humans apparently are here to fight and stop them and beat them and figure out what's going on. The game itself is so beautiful. I played it at as soon as it came out, February. I bought it and I started playing it, and I just couldn't put it down because it's so subversive in the way it plays. Most open world games are very, straightforward with the way you play them. You have an objective, you go through the game. It's open world. It gives you the illusion of freedom where you're able to do all these different things and stuff like that, but there's always a set path. Nier Automata isn't like that. There's no set path for you. There's different missions and there's always a forward arc, but the game itself has 26 different endings. So you can literally end the game because she's an android by going into the pause menu, which is essentially like a computer. It's built like a computer, and deleting her system 32, and that ends the game because she died. And that's one of the endings. It's one of like the canon endings that can happen, and it's really funny when it happens too, because when you do that, it's 26 endings for each letter in the alphabet. It'll show, oh, you got ending H, and it'll scroll through the end credits real quick and then bring you back to the main title screen, and you have to start the game over again. But that's just one of the endings. It's like you can put it as a part of your save file. And it's so funny. It's so funny every time you get like a silly ending. Like I think one of the endings is that you eat some bad fish and it kills you because they're an android and you can't eat fish. It's ridiculous. But there's also really serious moments of the game where it's life changing events that are happening to the characters, and you can just abandon your post and the game ends because the world ended because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And it's so amazing. Like the music is so good. Every single boss fight has this music that's in tune to everything you're doing. The music is in tune to what the boss is doing, and your response is how the music responds to your actions. It's kind of like Cadence of Hyrule, if anybody here knows that game. It's moving along to the beat, but it's not. Cadence of Hyrule is all about that, while Nier Automata has so much other things to offer. This is just one small part of it. And the game itself, like playing through it on the first playthrough, you think, wow, that was heavy. I can't believe all that happened. How could, this kind of thing happen? And then you find out that there's a second ending, or there's more. And you're just like, what? I just got through all of this and now you're going to put me through hell all over again? Why would you do this? Why would you put down your controller and you're like, why would you do this? And then you pick your controller back up and you keep playing. So for me to play through this game, I've been meaning to play through it again because you have the choice at the, oh no, I won't spoil it. But, fair to say that it's so different in terms of games I've played. I don't think there's been a single other game I've played in my lifetime thus far that has been like this. It's so immersive in the way that it is. You are essentially playing as an android. Everything you do in your actions and things like that is something that a robot would be doing, or an android in this case. But they learn to feel, they learn emotions and stuff like that. All the pause menus are as if you're using a computer. So you're putting chips in to load and save data and stuff like that. Remembering locations and stuff like that are memory files. All these things can be deleted and lost forever. You have this little buddy with you, like you do in every game. That's called a pod, and the pod talks to you about how you can utilize all the different features and stuff like that. But it's integrated, so it's like a computer tutorial. And even with your partner 9S, which is also another character you can play as in the game, when he does like a system check on you, so you can learn the controls and how to adjust the options in the game, you can actually, when you turn the volume down in the game, it turns the he'll be talking and be like, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? As you're turning the audio down, it'll eventually be off. And then you'll see the subtitle on the bottom of the screen that says, well, now you shouldn't be able to hear me at all. And I'll be like, yeah, that's exactly how I like it. So I enjoy this game a massive amount. And the reason it shot to the top of my list in terms of my favorite games of all time was because I never played a game that made me, cry, or a game that made you like sit down and rethink your life. Like people always been like, "Oh man, this game, it's so good. It made me sit back and rethink my life and everything and my life choices, things like that." But the way that the game discusses different, different parts of the human condition, about what it is to love somebody, about what it is to care for somebody, about what emotion truly is, what you're willing to do for the people that you love, like how are you just moving through life in a typical way, or are you actually trying to change something? Are you on a set path to your, or can you make your own path? This is coming from a video game. So when I finished the game and I finished bawling my eyes out at the ending of the characters, everything, I thought to myself, it's gonna be a while before I want to play something that heavy again. And Yoko Taro, who is the director of the game, is the oddest man I've ever seen, but he's a genius when it comes to storytelling and writing. And it almost makes me want to go back and play his older games, because this is actually, I wouldn't say a sequel, but it is part of a series of games, based around Near. There's Near. I think there's what is it? It's like there's Near Automata, which is the most recent one, and there's like da 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 da, or just Near. Let me see. It's part of it. It's a whole series. It's a whole series of games. I think that like the first game's called Drakengard. Yeah, and then there's Drakengard 2. But all the games tie into each other through this different lore. You're never on a different world altogether. It's very extensive. It's also very good. I haven't even delved into all of it myself. I definitely should, because this game has gained a special spot in my heart, where I can never say that I didn't, that I could put this in like my top 15 or something like that, or like, oh no, it wasn't that good, or it wasn't that great. Nah, the music is too good. The characters are too good. The world is too expansive in different ways for me to not want to just love it every single second. Um, if I had to be frank, having just a top four was very hard to make. But for like, if I'm being real, there's a lot of games I love. So for me to put these top four in there for myself, it means something. Monster Hunter World is up there too. It's number 5. It's definitely number 5. I can't get enough of that game. It's super addictive. I'll never stop playing it, probably until they make the next installment. Even then, I might just keep playing Monster Hunter World because it's just that good. But you think about what makes a game your favorite game of all time, and there's so many different factors that can go into it. So for some people, it's, I grew up with this game, I played this game with my cousins all the time and things like that. It was given to me by my parents and stuff like that. It's like the first game I ever played. For some people, it came at a difficult time in their life. So for them, that game holds a special meaning because it's tied to a time in their life when maybe things are difficult or things were great and they really admire it. For some people, it's just that the game was really that good. It really had that. It literally left that much of an impact on them that they feel like, yeah, it's okay if I say this is my favorite game of all time, or one of my favorite games of all time. And for some, it's just like a cultural phenomenon. Like you have your Mario, you have your Sonic, you have your Final Fantasy, which every single game is great. And for a lot of people, Final Fantasy 7 is one of the greatest games of all time. And I'm inclined to agree with them. And Final Fantasy 7 Remake is, if they do it right, it's going to be right up there. So, when you think about your favorite game of all time, you put some actual thought into it. Don't just say, oh, yeah, I love this game because I had this much fun with it. Nah, there's a difference between something being your favorite and something being your absolute favorite, something that you love. Because something that you love is something that whenever somebody talks about it, you either know everything about it, or you're really close to knowing everything about it, or you can talk about it in a way that it's passionate. It brings out a different feeling in you. And yeah, that's about everything I have to say on that. I love talking about my favorite things and my experiences with it, because I love to share experiences with other people about it. Um, oh wait, who's this? VHS screen? Wait, let me see. Silent Hill's first four installments for me is my favorite of all times. Bloodborne is a current favorite. I can understand that too. The Silent Hill games are fantastic. I know one of my favorite streamers really loves Bloodborne, like the as a part of the Dark Souls series. I should play those because it's the threat of the difficulty that really gets to me. But I've played difficult games before. This is nothing new, but yeah, definitely. That's great. That's really great. Silent Hill for the first four installments is those are some of the best atmospheric games of all time. You know, right? The Resident Evil games as well. I feel like they're wonderful at creating an atmosphere around you of dread and you can actually get scared, and that's something that's great for a video game to be able to do. And Bloodborne is a whole different beast in itself. It's the journey. It's that the open world games are special in that way. You know, it's great. It's great. But I'm glad that you shared that with me. That's one of my other favorite things is to talk about, my favorite games with people about that kind of thing. Let me see. Yeah, difficulty is crazy, but beating a boss makes all the pain worth it, and it had me ecstatic every time. Yeah, that's definitely the best part of everything is that when you beat a boss after it's taking you so long, oh my gosh, you feel a sense of relief and accomplishment, all these great feelings at the same time. And of course, had to share. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I hope that you stick around for more of the shows and everything. But I'm pretty sure I'm getting close to all the time I have for today. Just if you guys want to send me in any requests that you have for things you want me to talk about, even games that you want me to play, be sure to hit me up. I'm gonna leave my email hopefully somewhere here, or I'll just say it right now. My email is abailey6@gales.iona.edu. You can follow me on Twitter, of course, at the Lord Chef. Let me see, it's right here. Yeah, at the Young Chef on Twitter. You can email me topics that you want or send me DM me topics that you want me to talk about on the show. I'm always down for that. It's always my favorite thing to do. I'll always be here. That's just the name of the game. Thanks for listening. All right. Take it easy, everybody. I'll catch you next time.